ventures, from humble beginnings to industry leaders. By sharing their stories of triumph, setbacks, and lessons learned, these founders will offer invaluable guidance as well as inspiration to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to navigate the complexities of scaling their own ventures. I would like to invite on stage our moderator for the session, one and only Ashwin Bhadri. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for him. Founder and CEO, Equinox Labs. I can't hear the claps, come on. A visionary leader brings a wealth of expertise and knowledge to this session. As a national advisor to FSSAI and an international speaker on food safety, Ashwin's insights to the intricacies of the food industry are unparalleled. In this session, Ashwin will be offering invaluable insights and practical advice for entrepreneurs and industry professionals. Joining Ashwin on stage, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed panelists, we have Jyoti Bharadwaj, founder, TFIT. A warm welcome to Jyoti. A Mumbai-based entrepreneur and founder of the homegrown beverage brand TFIT, took the startup world by storm with her remarkable journey on Shark Tank India Season 2. Post her appearance on the show, Jyoti accelerated product launches and distribution strategies, propelling TFIT into the limelight. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause to Jyoti, please. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, Soumyadeep Mukherjee, founder and CEO, Spice Story. The visionary entrepreneur behind Spice Story has reshaped the culinary landscape with his innovative offerings. With over 23 years of distribution experience, spanning the FMCG and financial service industries in India, the Middle East, and Africa, Soumyadeep brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. He is deeply passionate about distribution and firmly believes it is to be the ultimate mode for startup success. Once again, a warm welcome to Soumyadeep Mukherjee. Thank you for being here with us. Next up, I would like to call upon Karan Korke, co-founder, The Healthy Binge. A warm welcome. Karan's entrepreneurial journey with The Healthy Binge exemplifies his expertise in sales, marketing, and branding. With over a decade of experience in these fields, he brings a wealth of knowledge to his role as co-founder. His entrepreneurial spirit, coupled with his experience and dedication, continues to drive The Healthy Binge to greater heights, promising a bright future for the brand in the competitive FMCG landscape. Once again, a warm welcome to Karan. Thank you so much for being here with us. Come on, we can do. Just to let you know, shortly we will also have a panelist, Jigar Patel, joining us in some time. He's a founder of Brillare Science Private Limited. He'll be joining us shortly. Next, I would like to call on stage Akash Zaveri, co-founder and Chief Operating Officer, Plix. A huge round of applause to Akash. Akash is an accomplished D2C entrepreneur, renowned for his groundbreaking work in the consumer goods industry. As a co-founder of Plix, a pioneering brand, Akash revolutionized the market with his forward-thinking approach and commitment to quality. Once again, a warm welcome to Akash. Thank you so much for being here with us. Next, I would like to call on stage Ripunjay Chachan, co-founder, well-versed. Ripunjay is an accomplished serial entrepreneur in the health and wellness industry. With his visionary leadership, he has made significant strides in democratizing health and wellness. He has reshaped the industry landscape with his innovative approach. With over a decade of experience in the health and wellness sector, he has a deep understanding of consumer needs and market trends. Once again, a warm welcome to him. Come on, a huge round of applause. Next, I would like to call on stage Gaurav Palrecha, Director, Madmix. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for him, please. A visionary entrepreneur at the forefront of health-conscious culinary innovation. Gaurav spearheads Madmix, a pioneering venture disrupting the food industry with its nutritious millet-based baked goods. He envisions a world where nutritious meals are not just a choice, but a lifestyle. Today, we have the privilege of delving into the mind of this young luminary as he shares his insights on entrepreneurship, innovation, and the future of healthy eating. Once again, Gaurav, a warm, warm welcome to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Jigar here with us. I would like to invite on stage our panelist, Jigar Patel, founder, Brulair Science Private Limited. Can we welcome him with a huge round of applause? Jigar is a visionary entrepreneur and a pioneering formulation scientist renowned for his groundbreaking work in the personal care industry. Driven by his passion for creating sustainable results from all-natural nutrition, he founded Brulair Science, an Indian brand committed to delivering innovative and effective personal care solutions. Once again, a warm welcome to Jigar. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. Next, I would like to call upon Dipankar Agarwal, Director, Ajanta Bottle. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for him. What happened? I can't hear you all clapping from that side. Come on. Dipankar brings unparalleled expertise in the field of glass packaging. With over 4 decades of experience, he has led Ajanta Bottle to become a global leader in comprehensive packaging solutions. His strategic insights have revolutionized the beauty and fragrance industries, enabling companies to elevate their brands and achieve unprecedented profitability. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a huge round of applause to our esteemed panelists on stage. Ashwin, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Panel discussions post-lunch are very difficult because staying up after a good meal is difficult. But today, the kind of panelists we have and the wide range of panelists we have, the advice you guys are going to get is going to be invaluable. I host 3 different podcasts. At the end of every podcast, I always say one sentence. I'm like, if you guys have taken out an hour to listen to a podcast, at least write down one thing that you're going to apply in your business, in your life, and actually go do it. Otherwise, it's a waste of your 1 hour, right? You're going to, I don't think you're ever going to get to meet so many esteemed people in a single place. I'm hoping to extract as much value from them, extract as much advice from them for all of you to take home. But please do at least take one lesson from everyone, or at least one from the whole panel, and go apply it in your business. Trust me, that can be a very big game changer. So a startup journey is something which is very difficult. At Equinox, we almost help every year close to about 5,000 startups. I personally mentor 100 plus startups. And one of the biggest challenges that startups face is scaling, right? So today my first question, and I'm going to start with you, Jyoti, is what is the challenge that you faced when you were scaling your business?
The first challenge that you face is a good product market fit, and even more critical than that is a good product market channel fit. Because a particular price point, for example, if T-Fit sells for 60 rupees in offline, I cannot sell it for 60 rupees online because the logistics will kill the business. So you have to understand what are the channel specific numbers for your product, whether a particular channel makes sense for the kind of product you're in at all. So you must have, like, how many of you have heard D2C? Can I see a show of hands? Everybody, right? But beverage business, even though people love to call us a D2C brand, it does not, the margins don't allow for it to become a D2C business. Customer acquisition combined with very high logistic cost, combined with low average order value, will not allow a beverage brand to scale as a D2C brand. So it's very important to understand what works for you, what's a buzzword, is it important to get behind it, or you should look at what works for your business. So in our case, that's how we identified channels, purely based on numbers, what works, what doesn't. So we don't do D2C. In today's times, quick commerce in the last 12 to 18 months has been a game changer for a lot of the FMCG brands, and we are no different. So that's a channel that we have doubled down on, and that's doing really well for us. So PMF, I would say, and product market channel fit, these two, if you understand, at least the 0 to 1 becomes, like, you make lesser mistakes. You will still make a lot of mistakes. Your product might misfire. Like, that's so many things that can go wrong. But if everything else is okay, I feel like understanding what channel will work for what product really can elevate your game. So.
Soumya, what challenges did you face when scaling, and how did you overcome them?
So I think one of the biggest challenges जो मुझे लगता है for any new brand that comes in is, are people even missing you? Customers, do they even want you? So you feel you have a great product. The customers think, oh, this is brilliant. But the challenge between good to have and a must have is a very typical challenge. A lot of founders don't, or maybe they are in a state of denial when they think that, no, I have a great product and people will come and they will flock it. So the biggest challenge that, like Jyoti said, is so India is a channel-based market, right? So you either buy from a retailer, you either buy from a certain website, you either buy from a marketplace, or something like a quick commerce, again a marketplace. So there are multiple channel partners who you have to reach, and the biggest challenge is to convince the guy why you should be on the platform. Because for that retailer, for that marketplace, his space, his square inch is sacred. He wants the highest returns on his square inch. And he will not want to have a product which does not have a high velocity, right? So, I mean, the biggest challenge is that. So I think one thing we have learned is to build the business with patience. FMCG, food, beverage, it's a long tail business. It cannot be done overnight. And if something is happening overnight, something is not right. So, and I keep telling people, and I've made myself understand that all iconic brands we think of are all 25, 30, 40-year-old brands. We are all completing 3, 4, 5 years, very early stages. We are still in the stage of discovery. Half the guys in this room do not know our brands. So this is one way of getting discovered, right? So maybe then you will go and try the product. So I think 0 to 1 is the most difficult part. It's the longer time. Once you have reached 1, I think then the journey becomes a little easier because we have learned how to scale 0 to 1. Then it becomes easier.
My big learning from his thing was every square inch, like a retailer is going to look for an ROI. Karan, what challenges did you face when you are scaling Healthy Binge?
So, I mean, from the similar industry as both Jyoti and Soumya, food industry stuff, a lot of channel issues, trying to find the right product market fit for each particular channel, logistical nightmares, so with a low AOV. So obviously all these are the same ones, similar ones which we also face, and probably half an hour back we were discussing the same things and trying to find a solution. But I think apart from the ones which both of them have mentioned, I think even a sense of scaling up needs to be instilled in the back-end team as well. In your entire culture is going to shift from what you were with at 0 to 1 or to 100. So at the back end as well, there are a lot of challenges which happen when you scale up. You need to get the entire quality aspects right, what you were doing on day one itself, also on day 100. So I think that is one challenge which no founder can foresee immediately, but it is something which needs to keep kept in mind, because you're spending a lot of marketing monies, distribution hours, etc., so that your product reaches your consumer. So quality of the product should not be sacrificed at all, and that needs to be inculcated as to the team as a culture.
I couldn't agree more. I am a huge believer that if you want to create a company that lasts decades and adds tremendous value, that culture plays a very, very large role, right? I'm in the process of writing a book literally on exactly that. I'm not writing it on testing, I'm not writing it on auditing, which is our main business. However, I'm writing it on company culture. And many people ask me that, oh, because Equinox today is known for culture, right? So people told me, oh, you're writing a book because you know so much about it. I said, no, I'm writing a book because I want to know a lot more about it, right? And company culture is fantastic. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Akash, the journey of Plix, I think the initial days would have been very hard because you were creating a new category. There was no category, when you started. So what are the kind of challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Sure. So Plix is a D2C wellness and beauty brand. I think one of the key challenges we faced, right, is we had a product, we had a go-to-market, which was D2C, but then acquiring customers was one of the biggest challenges we faced because it's a discovery-led brand, it's a discovery-led category. People haven't consumed such products in the sort of innovation we had offered in the market. And I think customer acquisition is probably the key metric in running a D2C brand, and it's also the biggest challenge for brands across the board, across categories. And the reason I really emphasize it is because it tells you whether your business is doing well, whether there is a market need that you're fulfilling. If so, your CAC should be low. If you have repeats, your CAC should be low. Whereas if your CAC is really high, maybe there's no market for it, maybe it's extremely competitive. So it tells you whether there's a place for you in the market or not. Identifying that, being innovative about how to bring that cost down is probably the biggest challenge we faced. And it's the biggest challenge probably all consumer brands face digitally. And I think cracking that is an innovation in itself and a challenge worth spending a lot of time and prioritizing heavily.
Excellent. Rupanjay, you entered a market where there are a lot of competitors, right? It is a crowded market. How do you kind of stand out and how did you scale?
I think the founders that mentioned, channel is something that you need to understand really, really well, right? The distribution strategy revolves entirely under understanding the customer well. You can segment the market by understanding customer demographics, psychographics. There are a lot of new age tool that helps you understand that, right? If you go back, let's say 10, 20 years, the companies that dominated the food space were traditional. They collected the data of the customer, but through, let's say, secondary surveys. But at this point of time, we had so much access to data and feedbacks. If we use that effectively, a lot more can be done to have an edge over MNCs or companies which had unlimited resources. How do you do that, right? By understanding what your consumer needs, right? Where are your consumer currently present, right? The distribution strategy can be derived from the right product channel fit, as Jyoti mentioned, right? If you understand the customer and the right channel to scale up, I don't see any reason why you won't be able to scale up in a particular channel or won't be able to scale up the business particularly.
Excellent. Gaurav, you've entered a field which is, I think, one of the fastest growing, right? Which also means it's crowded. Standing out becomes very difficult. Sometimes even tracking metrics become very difficult, right? So as you're scaling, one, what challenge are you facing? And two, what I would personally want to know is, what kind of metric are you looking at to judge whether you're scaling properly or not?
So where India was around 3 years back in terms of healthy eating and where it is now, there's a huge shift. Slowly, steadily, people are trying to look for healthier options. So that's something that's really helpful. When we started, the retail store had one small shelf of gluten-free products. But today, they have racks of right from your banana chips to flowers and more. So, how are we growing? If you ask, we expanding our D2C reach. In the sense, we're targeting audience that is actually looking for these products. What helps Madmix grow efficiently is we're trying to keep the price affordable. India is a market that thinks mainly by the tongue. Like, if it's healthy, the first reaction would be it will be expensive. To break that, we try to get our price point extremely low. For example, we're selling our chips at 20 rupees. We're selling our bhujia, baked bhujia at 20 rupees, similar to something that they used to pay in the market. This helped us quite a bit. Yes, for sure, the back-end management of the cost, the packaging, logistics, warehousing, that's a task in whole, and that's something that we struggle or we tackle it on a daily basis. But yeah.
Excellent. Jigar, you're in the field of serums, oils, shampoos, sunscreens. That is an extremely crowded market with very giant players that you go up against. So when you started this, was it daunting for you? Like, hey, I'm entering a market that, all the big boys are going to be playing with. And, how did you overcome that and how did you start to scale?
See, I think the answer is you have to look at how different you are from others. Because basically, there are so many players in the market, and if you do not differentiate, they will kill you, they'll crush you. So when we started, I thought that, yes, skin is 70% of body, right? So if you look at the business opportunity, are competition doing enough? I have seen that, brands promise to make people white in decades, but nobody became white. So I said, then there is a scope. Let there be as many players as they are. But, so I'm a pharmacist and I believe that if I create products which really works, people have problems to solve. Whether it is hair fall, dandruff, acne, dry hair, whatever. So to solve those problems, what was needed to be done, we have done that. So yes, when we started, it looked like whether we will be able to compete this player, because there are a lot of bottlenecks. Distribution is one of them. If I go back to 2010-11, if you do not have a distribution muscle power of, let's say, 1,000 distributors, no matter how big a pocket you have and you advertise on the television, you are not available. And your money is going wasted, your visibility is going wasted. But thanks to COVID, because see, I think diversity is also an opportunity for a lot of people. So in our channel particularly, what has happened is that the e-commerce growth has broken down a lot of barriers. Now people with just 50 lakh of money, but any innovative idea in mind, and they see a market gap, can penetrate, and can take a significant space in consumer's life. And it is not necessary that you take a prime time slot. कि 9 बजे का स्लॉट है 200 करोड़ लेके बैठो और फिर प्रोडक्ट बेचना है. अमेज़ॉन या फिर फ्लिपकार्ट या फिर अगर आप प्लेटफॉर्म देखो इंस्टाग्राम, फेसबुक, सो if you have a targeted consumer in mind and if you have a right product for that consumer, I think, my panel has talked a lot about channels. Obviously, everybody faces channel product fitment, which is very, very critical. But in my case, what I give more importance is to my product consumer fitment. If they understand, if they see advertisement once, and if they can relate to it that, okay, this is the product for me and I was searching for it, right, then any startup can survive. Otherwise, then you will pump in a lot of money, but everything will get wasted in attracting the investors. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Deepankar, you're in a completely different business than food, but I think many of your customers are probably going to be food, right? But this question is for not your food customers, but for you. When you started this business of glass jars, glass bottles, what were the challenges that you faced in scaling and how did you land up overcoming them?
I'll give you a brief background. So we've been doing traditionally food and pharma sectors for a very long time, and then starting doing cosmetics about 2 years ago. The biggest challenge that we faced was probably the team building, and I think जितने भी challenges हमारे सारे panelists ने बोला है, वो सारा प्रेसिपिटेट होकर के टीम बिल्डिंग पे ही आ जाता है, यू नो. बट हैविंग ट्राई टू गिव पीपल द अथॉरिटी एंड ट्रस्टिंग ऑन द यंग जनरेशन, मुझे लगता है वो सबसे बड़ी चीज़ है जो हमको अपने सभी बिजनेसेस में करने चाहिए. तो अगर आप 10 डिसीजन ले रहे हो, 2-3 गलत होंगे, वो आपसे भी होंगे, जिसको आप डेलीगेट कर रहे होगे उससे भी होंगे. You know, on that point, out of the panel, you know, we are invested in Soumyadeep's company, T-Fit Jyoti. I've been in touch with her on LinkedIn, and Akash ji, we are working together. And having catered to thousands of clients, जो मैं successful clients D2C में देखता हूँ ना, वो clients हैं जो बहुत जल्दी decision लेते हैं. और जो सौम्यदीप जी ने अभी बोला ना कि a lot of people fall in love with their product. वो प्रोडक्ट ना कभी परफेक्ट नहीं होगा, वो ऑन द गो परफेक्ट होगा. आप जब मार्केट में प्रोडक्ट को डालोगे ना, कस्टमर का फीडबैक आएगा, वो तब परफेक्ट होगा. सो दैट इज़ व्हाट वी ऑल्सो डिड, यू नो. सो हम लोग प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं, वो 80% प्रोडक्ट फिट होता है, यू नो. बाकी 20% ना कस्टमर आपको पढ़ाएगा. अगर हम लोग ये सोचते हैं कि आज 100% करके कस्टमर के पास जाएंगे तो आप कभी नहीं मार्केट में जाएंगे, बिकॉज चांद पे भी दाग होते हैं. सो आई रियली फील जो फाउंडर सक्सेसफुल हैं और जो आज पैनल पे बैठे हुए हैं, दे आर द वंस, या तो उन्होंने डिसीजन फास्ट लिए, या फिर उन्होंने अपने टीम मेंबर में लोग रखे. लाइक आई वर्क विद आकाश टीम, दे आर वेरी यंग पीपल बट दे डिसाइड ऑन द स्पॉट. मतलब दे आर एम्पावर्ड. आई रेयरली सी स्टार्टअप्स जिसमें कोई 25, 26, 27 साल की टीम एम्पावर्ड होती है. मीटिंग हमेशा एंड कैसे होती है, अच्छा आई हैव टू गो टू माई फाउंडर एंड टेक हिज लास्ट कॉल. टू एन एक्सटेंट की कलर भी क्या जाएगा, वो भी टीम इज एम्पावर्ड. You know, so that empowerment is very important, and that is what we do, and that is what we have been able to be successfully doing in a very competitive space. मतलब हमारे फील्ड में ब्रांड बनाना next to impossible है. But if you see the biggest packaging company in the world is Berlin Packaging, you know, owned by Oak Capital, and that is the model that we are emulating. You know, everything flows from the West, and we are trying to do that. And इसी फॉर्मूले पे हम काम कर रहे हैं कि, यू नो, डिसीजन मेकिंग शुड बी वेरी फास्ट. डेली 50 डिसीजन लो, 10 गलत होंगे, 15 गलत होंगे, बट जो सही होंगे ना वो सब कवर कर लेंगे फॉर यू एंड द कस्टमर. सो दैट्स इट. थैंक्स.
This is something that I think that deserves a round of applause, guys. That was that was some great insight. So this is something that I have seen in every successful company that I've studied, that decision making at all levels, the more you democratize it, the faster you will grow. I said this in the panel yesterday also. At Equinox, till 10 years ago, I used to take all decisions, all innovations on my shoulder, all decisions on my shoulder. Today, my team launches new services. I don't even know about it till 6 months after they will show me a presentation saying, hey, we launched this new thing. We have 20 clients. Here's how much revenue is generated. And now we're going to be putting it on our website and we're going to be blowing it out, right? I think that is a secret sauce. And if people are able to emulate that culture, and by the way, it becomes a part of work culture, right? If you're able to emulate that in a culture, there's nothing that's going to stop you. Because it's not now one founder, it's like 100 founders who are now going at it. My next question is going to be around identifying and meeting consumer needs, right? And especially when you're creating unique flavor profiles. Jyoti, this is going to be to you. Like, how did you go about doing something like this? Because there were not too many players in this industry. So how did you go about, you know, identifying that this is what you want to do, and how did you go about, you know, your product creation?
So I understand it two ways. Some people spot a market opportunity and launch something around it because there's an existing demand. Some people are personally pareshan with something that's not getting solved, and they kind of keep waiting for years for something to appear, but it doesn't, and then they're like, fine, I'll do it. So I feel like I belong to the second category. Having said that, broadly, if you're curious as a person, you will spot opportunities any day. If you're curious about trends, if you're curious about how people are living their lives, if you're curious about what's on your neighbor's dining table, I feel a lot of observations around product innovation come from curiosity in you and in your team. Second, it's thorough research. It's not the research that you would probably want to do sitting on a laptop. It's the research we did standing outside Hypercity. Back then it was Hypercity in Orbit Mall in Vashi. We used to just stand at the beverage counter and we used to see what people are buying, why they are buying. That time Raw Pressery was launched. This is old story, 2017. And everybody would pick up the bottle, but nobody would buy it, or very few people would buy it. because it was really expensive. A very small bottle was 150, 200, something like that. So it's important for you to kind of get down in the trenches where consumers are and try and understand how they buy, what they buy. Like if you want to make a product or a brand for the masses, maybe travel in train, second class में 2-3 ट्रिप लगाइए देश भर में देखिए लोग क्या पी रहे हैं. So where your consumer is being there and trying to study trends, बहुत बार हम करते हैं कि जो US में हो रहा है 6 महीने बाद let's replicate it, वहाँ पे seltzer चल रहा है तो यहाँ पे भी चल ही जाएगा. So that temptation is there, that's a hit and a miss. I would say दूसरा चीज़ है कि like what's your DNA, like what are you trying to build. For example, staying with the same case of standing in a hypercity and watching your consumer buy and their buying decisions. A lot of them would buy mango juice. Like juice कितना है वो हम भी जानते हैं, आप भी जानते हैं, but mango based products. But is that something you want to do? Like is that the problem you want to solve? Do you want to make a slightly better for you mango beverage? Do you want to see zero sugar beverage में क्या है? Are consumers asking for something that's healthier? So you have to A, know your DNA, and B, then go around looking for consumer insights from consumers themselves. Like we tried the first samples in our kitchen. We used to go try it out with people outside Hypercity. Ashwin's team really helped us when nobody knew us. Like I was doing it out of my pocket. We ran all the lab tests, everything, with his team. So hugely grateful there. But again, being very close, keeping your ear close to the ground and really listening to your consumers, a little bit of studying about market trends and a lot of instinct, I would say.
Excellent. Soumya, how are you going about identifying and meeting consumer needs?
So I think when I was conceptualizing Spice Story and I was looking at what kind of products, I had a couple of things very clear in my mind. One, that I did not want to get into a category where I will need to educate people about the product कि बॉस हम करते क्या हैं. India has grown up with its range of pickles and chutneys, and I clearly saw that there was no national brand driving chutney as a category. For me, it was an opportunity to create something in that category where people knew what it is, लेकिन available नहीं था. So my understanding was very clear that I should get into a business where the consumption is regular, people know the product, they use the product. Availability नहीं थी. When I came into the business, there was only ITC doing 2 products. And for them, it was such a small category that हम कभी उनके लिए थ्रेट बनेंगे नहीं. मतलब आज भी नहीं है, मतलब तब तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं थे. But fact was that wanted to get into a category where people knew about the product and they don't mind trying it because, oh, this is something I know, why don't I check it out? And I strongly believe that convenience will sell. In our fast-paced life today, where the cultures is changing, families are getting smaller, life is very fast-paced, kids are spending 14 hours out of house because of travel to the schools or colleges, spending time in the college, coming back, their tuitions. Convenience is definitely becoming, and that's the reason we see quick commerce in India becoming success, jabki globally it has not been a hit, right? It is only because convenience as a category will sell, and hence I think there's hope for Spice Story that convenience will sell. Chutney in a bottle, we believe it's a convenience, and hence the thought process.
Excellent. Karan, your company has created a lot of unique products. How do you come up with like different products like profiles? How do you come also while innovating? How do you also maintain quality?
Right. So we've got a mix. So we do healthy millet chips. And back in 21 when we launched the brand, not a lot of people were doing millet as a category. Thanks to the International Day of Millet, which is promoted by the Government of India, now a lot of awareness has definitely gone up. We did try to educate a lot of people on ground in terms of at retail counters, etc., through Instagram as well, about the benefits of the indigenous millet. But on the taste profile, we wanted to make sure that it is acceptable by all across various categories, various demographics of people. So, right from an Indian masala, which is universal, to a chatpata chaat, which consumed heavily in the north of India for us, a smoky barbecue, which is hit amongst the Mumbai and Delhi crowd. So we've created a different set of unique flavors, which encompasses a lot of audiences across the globe itself. So we started exports last year, and we're seeing good growth on that market as well, because awareness is higher than in India about healthier snacking. So there, the taste profiles perfectly fit. We made sure that it's not Indian specific. We wanted to create a wider kind of an audience right from the get-go. So, a little lesser, spicier options is what the West likes. But surprisingly, even the Indian flavors they've liked because of globalization. They like the Indian taste palette as well now. So, on that front, that is how a little bit of consumer insight when we went down to the market taste, because we own our manufacturing, so we could experiment a lot with our flavors, with our seasonings, with the base what we wanted to create. So we went down, and initially it was a set of friends and family who we used to go to, but now it's becoming a little better with a wider audience what we already have with us. So we send them also, when we create new products, we send our existing repeat customers, we send them our samples and ask them for the feedback. On the quality front, we've got about 30 plus checks which we do at the manufacturing end. We've got an ISO 22000 and a US FDA approved manufacturing plant. So and we've got about 7 QA people at the factory making sure that these quality checks are done before they're dispatched out of the factory.
Amazing. So I think once you've created a great product, got it going, the next bigger challenge that most startups face is distribution. So my question is to you, Akash. How do you develop new distribution channels to reach new customers and while staying competitive?
Right, I think some of the panelists have brought this up. India is a very channel-driven economy. There are a lot of channel nuances, right? If you're an online player, you want to understand which channels support your product. A Flipkart and an Amazon operate incredibly differently. A Zepto and a Blinkit operate very differently, because the company culture through which they build their products are also very different. To your question, right, how do you build a distribution strategy for your brand? Honestly, at Plix, what we focused on, being a very young, agile company, was trying to be available across the board. We still sell 50% of our product on our own website, but the remaining 50%, you would be shocked, right? It's a mix of global, it's a mix of Zepto, mix of Flipkart, Amazon. In fact, because of the sort of audience Plix has, Flipkart sometimes does even better than an Amazon. And that's not very intuitive, right? You would assume that an Amazon, given that the penetration of it is so high in tier 1, would be the biggest marketplace for a consumer brand. But when I looked at my data, I realized that tier 2 is where 50% of my sales come from, and tier 2 likes Flipkart. So that's how we built Flipkart. So we looked at our audience, we looked at where they live, we looked at what distribution modes they are very accustomed to. And that's why some non-intuitive channels like Flipkart is sometimes even bigger than Amazon as a channel. And then we realized that we're spending so much money online. So many people have seen our products, but may not be willing to spend on a higher ticket size, which is required to run a D2C business. But there's so much awareness we've created, right? So we entered general trade, we entered modern trade, where you can buy just one product for 200 rupees. And that has been a very, very accretive distribution model for us, because there's so many people that have become aware about the brand, but just haven't taken the plunge to buy it online. But when they see it at a single pack size offline, I'll give you another example. We have a coconut water SKU, right? It costs 20 rupees. There's no way I can sell a 20 rupee product online. So I have to sell it in a pack of 30, in a pack of 60. But offline, I can sell it in a single sachet, right? And that's where we've seen the propensity of coconut water just through the roof, and retailers are incredibly ecstatic about it because it's an innovative product. It's available at a price point that distribution channel allows for them. Vis-a-vis me selling a 500 rupee pack of 30 in general trade, I'm sure the distributors and Kirana stores wouldn't be very happy about the velocity of that product. So we've built SKUs according to the channel. We've looked at our audience, seen where they live, what are the distribution channels they are comfortable buying from, and double down. Being a very young, agile company, we've been able to have the opportunity to try everything. And I think being very agile and being very experimental, having the right sort of funding that allows you to be very experimental is incredibly important because you never know what's going to work. And you'd rather try everything as fast as you can, fail, and double down on what works.
So I'm going to take two things from that. One was fail quickly, and the second was creating SKUs depending on your channel. That's a brilliant take. Jigar, I'm going to bring this to you next. What kind of distribution channels worked well for you, where you got the maximum number of customers, and how were you able to stay competitive in that?
For us, our website has been the biggest channel. But, we are grounded into the salon, professional salon channel. That has been the pioneer channel for us. We have started focusing on our own website, e-commerce and everything only after post-COVID, because when you are single channel specific, sometimes, you are in fear that when I expand into multiple channels or distributions, my primary channel should not feel offended. Because the channel in which we operated earlier, which is professional salon space, runs on exclusivity. Is that if you give me a product, I would better sell it if it is not available anywhere else. Otherwise, there is no point, because I am not a most convenient option for my consumer. If today I like a product, I would better go to Amazon and buy it, no? Why would I go to salon again and buy it? So for salon to sell a product, exclusivity is important. Now, having this understanding in mind, obviously when COVID hit, you didn't have an option, because survival was an issue for everybody. So products of Brillare, we opened all the marketplaces. Today, Brillare is available into 35 plus digital marketplaces on website as well. But then what we realize is that whatever growth we have accumulated in salon channel for 8 years, we did the same kind of business with the similar value in just 1 year on e-commerce. So we said, now, okay, this we could have done earlier. Second, if it is becoming so important channel, the online business, then what happens when the salon will start, bouncing it back? So we differentiated the product range. Like he said, you need to have a product channel fitment. So what we understood is that now let us create two separate divisions of the product, whereby Brillare Professional will be sold to salons and Brillare Natural will be sold to the online marketplaces. So obviously when your product has a demand, marketplaces will come to you. You don't need to go and find marketplaces. When we started with digital, we only started with Amazon on our website. But when there was a traction, when the demand started, we got the inquiries from the marketplaces that we want to list you. And this is the best time for you to open a channel, because this is where you will get best, margins, good payment terms, and you get to list the SKUs which you want to list. Otherwise, when you start chasing all the marketplaces desperately, one, maybe your backend is not ready, right? So your initial experience with some marketplaces, if it is not good, then you will not get a priority on that marketplace even in future. So my advice would be, if select your distribution channels. It can be 1 or 2 or 3, not more. And there you become thick rather than spreading yourself thin. And when you are big there, your competition is already taking a notice, because everything is about market share. So they will tell you that in this particular category, Brillare products are doing good, so why don't you give us this category? And at that time, you know that your product has a demand and your product is ready for the marketplace. Thank you.
Don't we all wish we had that problem? But for the first time, I've heard that one channel will be jealous of the other or will get offended when you're present somewhere else. That's a very interesting problem to have. My next question to you is, Ripunjay, that when somebody hears about your products, the most obvious version is, of course, it's available online. What is your product mix? What is your distribution mix? And what is working well for you?
So, at Wellversed, we are obsessed with customer. We have to understand the entire company culture that you start with, right? Company culture have to be driven, right? You as founder drive the culture. You tell them what the culture stands for. For us, it's understanding the customer. The more and more you understand the customer, the right kind of distribution channel you would say. let's say, fine. The entire strategy of distribution revolves around customer. The panelists rightly said कि एक channel पकड़ो और उसको deep down understand करो. There is no business if there is no repeat, right? For repeat, you have to create multiple touch points. How do you understand कि वो customer कहाँ से खरीद रहा है next, right? It does not have to be Amazon, Flipkart or anything else. It depends largely on tier 1 से आ रहे हैं customer, tier 2 से आ रहे हैं, tier 3 से आ रहे हैं. जहाँ से भी customer आ रहा है, make sure products are available, right? Then obviously the important thing is to understand the P&L of each channel, right? At Wellverse, we are very, very, obsessed with P&L of every channel as well, right? It's very easy to say कि यार double down on a particular channel, but then again you'd often see doubling down on a particular channel might not get you the ROI, right? Business भी चलाना है at the end of the day. So understanding the right customer, right channel and right P&L would give you the understanding which channel to double down on, which channel to thin up on, right? You can always advise the customer or, reach out to the customer saying that this is the channel that we are available on, considering we at Wellverse believe it's agnostic, but then again the customer tells you the right channel or distribution to scale up from. Data tells you a lot. The AI tools that are available give you SKU level profitability, channel level profitability. There are measuring tools which you should understand and scale up on. That's how I believe.
Channel-wise P&L, that's, I think, something very important for anyone who's going to be, especially in multiple channels, because sometimes you just get lost. If you're not able to track it from the beginning, it can be a very large challenge. Thank you for sharing that, Rupanjay. Gaurav, my next question is to you. When any, startup, a founder starts a company, they normally start with a vision of, their product or the vision of how their company will, grow and what kind of products you'll create. But sometimes while you're adapting to market, this vision may change, or what you may have to do may not be aligned with your vision. What has been your experience around that?
So I'll share the true story of how Madmix was born. So June 2021, we had launched Daily Staple. Beautiful products. We used to do bread premixes, multi-grain flours with activated cooling capsules. Bread premixes, all you have to do is add a cup of water, and the calorie per slice used to be less than 18. Lowest globally. We even applied for a patent for both of these SKUs. Very well priced, but that failed miserably in the country. For simple reason that we didn't account for was that Indians are very rigid. They do not have the time to bake a bread. Even if they bake a bread, they want it to look like a normal white bread. The health factor, price factor, all stands secondary. We slowly launched our premixes, which were idli, dosa, chella, with free chutney inside. That gave us another stand because the market accepted that very well. And answering your question is that we started with the vision of millets, healthy food, but we realized that what we're selling is not going to get accepted in India, for sure. It got accepted very well in the international market, like New Zealand, US, but not at the home ground. So then we rebranded the entire brand. Daily Staple became Madmix. We gave a young look to it. We got healthy snacks in it, all under the millet brand umbrella. And we kept the vision intact. The vision was very simple. Have millet-based products, keep it affordable, and keep it healthy. Clean label. And once we did that, last year, since then till now, the growth has been very good. Kept all points considered, which was very simple, what the end consumer wants. Because I might like it, my family might like it, everyone around me might like it, but that really does not help my work grow. So with a lot of trials, a lot of failure in R&D, we got where we want to be today.
So I think a good trait that founders should have is the humility to know when some thought that you thought is going to really, really work and it doesn't work, it's okay to pivot, right? I know so many founders who were so stuck, not just to the vision, but also on how to get there. Even when they had it wrong, they couldn't take it on themselves to say, oh, I was wrong and oh, I need to pivot, right? And those companies ended up shutting down. The ability to pivot and pivot multiple times and fail multiple times is absolutely, I think, crucial for anyone to be successful.
It doesn't come cheap though.
Oh, it doesn't come
It
cheap at
doesn't
all.
come
Oh, I
cheap.
know that. At the beginning of the pandemic, I bet on creating a product at Equinox. We spent close to about 50 lakh rupees developing it. It was a very tech-based product. It was supposed to monitor hygiene and everything remotely. And we didn't even get 10 customers for it. We didn't generate like a lakh rupees worth of revenue, and that 50 lakhs was down in the dustbin. At the same time, I created a 1 lakh rupee tech product called Nutripedia, which calculated nutrition value for restaurants. Today, we've calculated 6 lakh recipes using that 1 lakh rupee product versus something that 50 lakh, and I was the public face of that 50 lakh rupee product. Like, oh, this is going to be must. I think there's a news article or two around it. Oh, this is going to be revolutionary. And it was a slap on my face. But it didn't stop me from doing something new. The new one, I didn't put myself as the face of the product, but it did really, really, really well, right? So it's okay to take a hit. It's perfectly fine. I was talking to one of my mentors, and I was asking him, and he's a billionaire. He sold his company for $1 billion. I was asking him that what is the one thing, right? No, what is that one trait that every founder should have if you want to be successful? He said the grit, like ability to take punches, ability to take losses without losing enthusiasm is absolutely key. Soumya, I'm going to ask you this next. What was your original vision of your company, and has it changed over time, or has the market changed how you thought your products would develop, how you thought your company would develop?
No, I think we have been fortunate in that way. I strongly believe in a gentleman called Mr. Aristotle. So सैकड़ों साल पहले वो बोल के गए थे, follow your first principles. So our first principle is being desi. So हम कुछ भी करेंगे देसी करेंगे, देसी के अलावा कुछ नहीं करेंगे. So the fact remains कि luckily we have been fortunate that it has worked. And it is working. We have adapted, like we have said, channel-wise, product packaging fitment, what kind of pack size will go in what channel. We have learned it. Again, not cheap, but I think we have been very fortunate in the manner that we have not had to change the vision. We have not had to change our thought process. What we had to change was to being able to adapt and time. That is most important. And I think, like you said, we need to be able to take the punches. So I always tell my team that if we do anything well, it is a team effort. If anything goes wrong, it is my fault because I am at the helm, right?
Couldn't agree more. Jyoti, what was your original vision for T-Fit, and has it changed over time? Has market demands changed? And I must say I had the privilege of being there virtually, albeit when she was crafting that vision. I was one of the first few people that she spoke to. And I was like, this is something interesting. I remember him telling her there is no market for it at the moment. That could mean something very big, or it could be making a very big mistake, but also it could be something very big, right? So I would love to hear your story about what was your original vision and has it changed over time?
So the vision remains the same. T-Fit is India's first unsweetened beverage brand. It's not that temptation wasn't there to maybe sweeten it with stevia if there's no sugar or any other alternative sweetener. But we kind of thought beverages from the ground up as to when you are thirsty every time. Is it the sugar that you crave, or is it a refreshing, nourishing experience that you crave? And so we approached it with that first principle. Our vision still remains the same. Our product portfolio has grown from 3 products to 7 products, and we still have no sugar or sweetener in any of our products. We have grown multiple channels. We export to 6 countries. And maybe we will not be the size of a sugared beverage brand or a cola brand yet, but I do have faith in just the human ability to see what's good for them, what's not good for them. Post-COVID, we are already half more aware than we were we read labels more now, thanks to good people like Food Farmer. I feel we are a lot more label aware as a country. We're a lot more aware of what's a good ingredient, or what's an evil ingredient. So I had full faith in the Indian consumer, and I'm still here in front of you today without changing the vision. I feel yeah, only upwards and onwards. Thank you.
That's amazing. Dipankar, my next question is actually to you. And you work with so many different brands, right? So when a startup wants to get consumer attention, what do you advise them? Should they focus on the aesthetic of the packaging, or should their packaging be a lot more practical? What is the balance?
From packaging perspective, can you just tell the two options that you just said?
Aesthetically more pleasing or practically better?
Practically, that's what my first statement was also 80-20. Practicality mein jaiye, make it and improve it when your volumes grow. And to that, I also have one more point to share. All the D2C brands who are on the in the audience and on the panel, I'll share a couple of ideas. जो distribution की आपकी सबकी problem है, how you can actually turn your customer acquisition cost from being a cost to a revenue driver, and how we as a business have done it successfully in last 2 years. We were paying to India Mart almost close to 40 lakhs annually, and that's a huge cost. जो भी B2B space में सबको पता है, पैसा लगता है उसमें. So we moved to a knowledge-based marketing, and we launched a website. It's the only website in the country which sells glass bottles in bulk if you want good quality bottles. So we were getting about 100 leads every day, and we had to set up a huge calling team. बहुत बड़ी team बिठाओ, call करो, and then customer कहता है response नहीं आता. All that things I think आपने face किया है, जब आप हमारे साथ काम किया है. So हमने क्या किया है कि B2B पोर्टल बनाया, उसमें हमें मंथली के 150-200 कस्टमर आते हैं. Now these are the customers who bought your product, 10-15-20 हज़ार का माल ले लिया है, and these are the right products who have tried your products, and now you built on them. So similar product in D2C which is working, a brand is known as Blue Bottle Coffee. I don't know how many of you have heard. So what this brand does it's a coffee brand. They have a physical outlet. They sell a course on how to roast the best coffee for $10. So anybody who wants to learn, and learning की ना कोई कीमत नहीं होती, और आज की डेट में मैं भी कोर्स पे पैसा खर्चता हूँ. I probably spend about couple of lakhs every year on learning, and जो 15, 20, 30, 50 हज़ार की भी सैलरी का बंदा है, वो 2-3 हज़ार रुपये अपनी अपस्किलिंग पे खर्चेगा. That is the general norm हो गया. इतने कोर्स अब बिकते हैं मार्केट में. So if I talk about brands on the dice, if I talk about Soumyadeep, Soumyadeep is selling chutneys. तो अगर सौम्यदीप एक 500 रुपया कोर्स बनाते हैं कि ये वाली चटनी कैसे बनती है, सो हो सकता है मैं उनका प्रोडक्ट नहीं खरीदना चाहूँगा 200 रुपये का, बट 500 रुपये का कोर्स खरीद लूँगा. सो दैट कोर्स टेल्स मी कि यार ये बंदा ना मराठी चटनी खाना चाहता है और ये बिहार में बैठा हुआ है, एंड आई कैन गारंटी वो ज़िंदगी में चटनी नहीं बना पाएगा. डू यू ऑल एग्री? एंड वी आर एट अ जनरेशन जो हम भूल गए हैं कि अचार भी कैसे डालना है. सो इफ़ यू कैन जस्ट एजुकेट, एंड फाइनली सारे कंसल्टेंट्स भी ये करते हैं, वो आपको एजुकेट करते हैं, फिर आपको रियलाइज़ होता है भाई आप खुद तो कर नहीं पाओगे, तो बेटर है सौम्यदीप की चटनी ही खरीद लो. सो वी आर नाउ मूविंग इन अ प्लेटफॉर्म विच वी आर मेकिंग पैकेजिंग लीडर्स इंस्टीट्यूट, वेर इन वी सी अ गैप कि हम लोग पैकेजिंग के जो प्रोफेशनल्स हैं उनको हम पैकेजिंग के बारे में पढ़ा सकें. सो नाउ यू सी आई हैव सडनली मेड माई कॉस्ट सेंटर इनटू अ प्रॉफिट सेंटर, एंड द कस्टमर आई एम टारगेटिंग टू इज सुपर कॉन्शियस. भाई मुझे पता है उसे मराठी चटनी चाहिए, बिहार में बैठ के हर महीने खाएगा वो. सो आई थिंक कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में हमको बहुत सोचने की ज़रूरत है कि क्या हम कस्टमर एक्विजिशन को कॉस्ट की तरह ही देखें, क्या हम उसको प्रॉफिट सेंटर में नहीं. अमेजॉन डज दैट वंडरफुली. उनको सर्वर चाहिए, प्रॉफिट सेंटर है. कोरियर चाहिए, कोरियर भी बेचता है. मतलब अमेजॉन पैकेजिंग भी बेचता है. सो हम हर एक कॉस्ट सेंटर को अगर एक प्रॉफिट सेंटर की तरह देखने लग जाएँ, आई थिंक हमारा D2C का जो कस्टमर एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट की प्रॉब्लम है ना, वो कुछ हद तक तो सॉल्व हो जाएगी. आई डोंट नो पूरी होगी नहीं होगी, बट दैट इज़ माई टेक ऑन व्हाट यू शेयर्ड.
That is an amazing insight. Karan, my next question is for you, right? When you are developing marketing strategies, how do you keep them transparent? How do you keep them authentic? It's a big challenge for a lot of brands, and I think you guys are doing it quite well. So I'd love to understand, how did you do that?
So on the customer, on places like Instagram, etc., we try to keep it real, with real instances of how we manufacture the product at the back end. Try to show what the manufacturing is all about, what kind of quality checks are we doing before it comes to you. So nowadays people are aware, thanks to again Food Farmer and the likes, wherein people want to understand what is it that I'm consuming. So that is where we want to be very transparent to our audiences, to our customers, and make sure that they understand why we are doing this and how we are doing this. So that is one of the ways what we do it. Apart from that, on the marketing or the distribution front, we've tried to crack awareness in a way that we want to be present where our customers are. So for example, schools, colleges, high-end jewelry stores is where something where we give our products as snacks, as with the coffee, so that people can be aware that there's a certain brand out here in the market, and we've got a really great response. In kids amusement parks, that is also where we sell, because one of our target audiences are mothers and children. So these are few ways what we've tried to understand and tapped into the market in that way.
Fantastic. Gaurav, how are you guys at Madmix handling this?
Again, how Karan, Jyoti, they said that Food Farmer is something that has helped India be more aware about the clean label. So that's been something good for us. Me, Karan, we are in the same field, so similar places where we end up having our products displayed, school, colleges, nutritionists, etc. One thing at Madmix is that we've never paid any influencer to promote the product. What we do is we send them a sample and give their honest feedback. And that's been something really good for us, because they come out, it might be a child nutritionist in India or someone in Hong Kong who's controlling a few clients in India from there. And that helps spread the word out. So that's a route that we've chosen, not to do any paid media. And our label is clean. So in a way that you can come, you can try it. And low in calorie, a lot of health benefits that we've tried to incur in the product has been good. Again, the target audience for us in the snack, in the puff, happens to be young mothers and children. So we try to promote it more towards, places where they would go. So at Madmix, we've never entered GT. We entered GT, but we died in about 3 or 4 months. So then we decided to get into the alternate channels where placement becomes where it's visible, and movement becomes like within 48 hours the shelves can get picked up, emptied. So yeah, that's been an approach that we've taken in the last 6 months.
That is amazing. By the way, if you noticed, almost every food founder here has spoken about Revant, Food Farmer. I wonder whether he keeps getting hiccups every time we talk about it. Exactly. Right. So when I think Revant started his whole journey, so I know Revant quite well, there was a big sentiment in the market that all food companies are going to hate him. But to everyone's surprise, a lot of food companies love him, because a lot of food companies are doing the right thing. They're creating clean labels. Right now also, I was with him and he was coming to our stall. About 10 different people were pulling him into their stall, like, oh, come and see our product. And he has a policy that he can't take a picture with the food, of course, but everyone was so excited to show him their label, show him their product, get his honest opinion on it. I think that shows that as an industry, we're progressing really, really well, right? Jigar, again, in terms of marketing and keeping things transparent and authentic, how are you guys handling it?
So I think, even if we see the evolution of either a food industry or a cosmetic industry, there has been two kind of growth in every category. One is horizontal, one is vertical. So whenever something new comes up into the market, people don't bother too many details about it, because they are more concerned about the benefit. नया मार्केट में प्रोडक्ट आया है, आइदर इंटरेस्टिंग है, ट्राई करना चाहिए, या मेरे लिए कुछ नया रिजल्ट लेके लाएगा, राइट? तो वो सब देखते हैं लोग. तो पहला विटामिन सी सीरम जब मार्केट में आया होगा तो लोगों को लगा कि यार ये ब्राइट होने का सबसे इजी तरीका है, एंड आई कैन बिलीव इट, क्योंकि फेस वॉश से तो ब्राइटनेस आया नहीं, अब सीरम से आ सकता है. सो वहाँ पे बेनिफिट कैन सेल. Up the moment consumer understand that okay, this is a category growing, then obviously there are 100 new players, 1000 new players in India, right? Because 800 करोड़ लोग जो दुनिया है उसमें से आधी जनता तो इंडिया और चाइना में है. तो अब हमारी कंपटीशन 1000 में नहीं बढ़ती है, अभी लाखों में बढ़ जाती है. तो फिर then the moment there is lot of competition, people saying कि अच्छा सब लोग विटामिन सी बना रहे हैं, तो अब हर किसी के लिए बेचना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा. अब हॉरिजॉन्टल ग्रोथ ख़त्म हो गया, क्योंकि विटामिन सी है, सबको पता है, 1000 ऑप्शन है. अब क्या करेंगे, पीपल विल स्टार्ट डिगिंग आउट वर्टिकली, कि अच्छा इसमें से अच्छा विटामिन सी कौन सा होगा. Then there are many questions they start asking, right? So say for example, my team is currently running one advertisement whereby everybody knows 10% vitamin C. But what about rest 90%? Because so far, world didn't know 10% vitamin C. So up to that point, it is okay. Now, the moment we start talking about rest 90%, I'm sure my competition is also start speaking about rest 90%. So you have to just understand this phenomena that जब हॉरिजॉन्टल ग्रोथ खत्म हो जाता है तो वर्टिकल ग्रोथ चालू होता है और उसमें से बहुत कम लोग सर्वाइव होते हैं. तो जो लोग सर्वाइव होंगे उनके पास डिटेल ज़्यादा है. तो कंज्यूमर आज नहीं तो कल आपको पूछने वाला है कि आपने क्या बनाया, कैसे बनाया, क्या डाला, हाउ इट इज़ बेनिफिशियल टू मी. In food, the answer may be different. Cosmetic, the answer may be different. But we believe that transparency is the way forward for you to, declutter yourself. और ये टाइम हर ब्रांड के पास आएगा ही आएगा. शायद आप इनोवेटर हो और आपने एक नई कैटेगरी बना दी है तो अभी ज़रूरत नहीं होगी. बट जब इसमें क्लटर हो जाएगा तो आपके पास सर्वाइव होने का रास्ता ही है ट्रांसपेरेंसी. बिकॉज फूड फार्मर हमारे लिए भी रिलेवेंट है. फूड इंडस्ट्री ठीक है, हम लोग तो कॉस्मेटिक में भी देख रहे हैं कि देखो अल्टीमेटली लेबल पढ़ना है ना. तो लेबल तो किसी का भी पढ़ सकते हो, आप फूड का पढ़ो, आप कॉस्मेटिक का पढ़ो, आप दवाइयों का भी पढ़ सकते हो, राइट. बहुत सारी चीज़ें. सो व्हेन यू रीड यू अंडरस्टैंड एंड यू डिफरेंशिएट. तो दिस इज़ द इम्पॉर्टेंस वी ऑलवेज केप्ट इन द फोरफ्रंट ऑफ ब्रिलेयर दैट ट्रांसपेरेंसी के बिना यू विल नेवर बी एबल टू डिफरेंशिएट योर सेल्फ. एंड दैट इज़ वॉट यू हैव टू स्पीक. बिकॉज कंज्यूमर आज TVC नहीं देखता है. Today's generation is very bored of TVC. You won't believe, couple of days back I was talking to my daughter. और मैं जो उसको समझाना, she is 8 by the way, मैं उसको जो बोलना चाह रहा हूँ ना उसको वो पहले से पता है. तो she find me very boring. तो मुझे ये समझ में आया कि the next generation has evolved, right? Now why? Because they have so much of knowledge and evolution come to them as a default. तो उसका मतलब है मैं पुराने ज़माने का वो TVC नहीं चला सकता हूँ कि अच्छा मैं ये दुनिया का मैजिकल प्रोडक्ट लेके आया हूँ और मेरे से ही खरीदो. दैट इज़ गॉन. वॉट कंज्यूमर वॉन्ट इज टेल मी ट्रांसपेरेंटली what you have, and maybe that honest approach is different than what have been sold to them till now. Thank you.
That's amazing. I think label padega India has a lot more implication than just food. I think I just got a peek into that. My next question is for you, Akash, is around innovation. What role does innovation play in a company's journey from being a startup to an industrial leader?
That's a great question. Everybody knows how important innovation is. I don't have to stress on it. I think what founders make a lot of mistakes with is over-innovating. And what that means is optimizing when an optimization isn't required, right? And I think many panelists have brought up that take your product to 70%, take it to the market, get feedback and iterate. And I think that's what's important. But when you're building a business, right, you're selling product to generate revenue to finally generate a profit, right? And in that entire process, if you're spending so much time just innovating, you're not going to have time to spend and prioritize the rest of the pillars, which are as important, maybe sometimes even more important than the product itself, right? And it comes down to things which people have already talked about. Your profit and loss statement. Where does your product fit in that? How much does it contribute of your overall revenue, right? If you have an amazing product and you've not figured out how to advertise it or how to distribute it, it's really not worth much. And for that same reason, innovation has a very critical role. I would say you look at it at the very beginning of your business cycle. You understand what role does it have? Does it have a product market fit? If yes, how do I focus and build the muscle in other parts of the area, other parts of the business, such that your business can scale? And I think at Plix, what we do is we innovate all the time in terms of launching many products. In the back of our head, we're always thinking about how to improve our products. But if we stop our sales, if we cut down on our sales just because we want to make our product from 99 to 99.1, it's going to be extremely disrupting, right? And it's not going to add as much value to the business entity and to the brand as much as focusing on many other pillars of the business, as well as focusing on different products. And businesses always follow a cycle. You're going to have a hero product today. It's going to be a hero for maybe 5 years, a decade, if you're very lucky, couple decades, right? But you have to innovate in the aspect of finding new opportunities, finding new new TAMs that you can operate in, and figure out what you can do differently. Versus over innovating on the same product you already have live isn't going to yield a practical result for you to grow a flourishing business.
That's the first time I've heard over innovating is bad, and I think that was an amazing insight. I think I have been guilty of that a few times. And I've learned the hard way that sometimes you don't have to always make the product better. Sometimes you have to just maybe diversify or focus on marketing, focus on other facts. Fantastic share. Ripunjay, at Wellverse, you have a very wide range of products. How do you handle innovation at Wellverse?
So I think I will answer that from an organization perspective rather than from a consumer perspective. Akash already mentioned, from a consumer perspective, don't over innovate. So I believe innovation is the key when it comes to organizational DNA. It is a mindset that needs to be engraved in the organizational DNA, right? You as a founder will drive the innovation for a bit, then you will have 10 other things to take care of. जब तक ये हर जो टीम मेंबर है उसको एम्पावर नहीं करेंगे कि इनोवेट करना. इनोवेट इज़ नॉट पर्टिकुलरली कमिंग फ्रॉम अ कटिंग एज टेक्नोलॉजी कुछ बना दिया. इवन इफ इट्स अ सिंगल पैकेजिंग चेंज, लेबल चेंज, anything and everything could be considered as innovation, right? Now, you as a top leader or the leadership has to encourage creativity and risk taking. The team will drive the energy from that, right? How well you award them when they come to you saying that I have this idea, right? You need to understand the fundamentals. What is the, or how is the, innovative idea is being generated. If you can create multiple loops around that and debate on the pros and cons of that particular idea, so that when they see that they are able to add value, they would definitely come back with new ideas and they would be able to innovate as a fundamental, not just an additional KRA that needs to fulfill when they are trying to do the job.
Fantastic. Now I think the most difficult of all questions, and I think something that is in the food industry till 5 years ago, people thought that this wasn't possible, is raising funds. Right? So a lot of food companies that I've spoken to, when I used to say that, okay, I think it's time you need to go raise money, but people used to, like 10 years ago, they used to tell me like, oh, what food companies, who's going to fund food companies? I think a lot of food companies today are funded and are doing really, really well. So my question to you, Jyoti, is what are some of the strategies that you deployed at TFIT to secure funding?
Actually, can I say that Akash is the best person to answer this question? Yes, because we have only raised funds very recently on Shark Tank, and that's the only fund that we've raised. We bootstrapped for the longest time. Funding is easier to come by today in consumer business than it was 5 years ago. It's absolutely right. There have been many good, not too many, but there have been some good solid exits. Yoga Bar is one of them. Plix is one of them. And a unique value proposition with excellent execution is what I would say leads to funding, but only time will tell. I'll hand over the mic to Akash.
Akash, obviously, the Plix is one of the success stories in the industry, for an exit. So my question would be, and I think we had a quick offline chat about it as well. So when you started your journey, was exit something that you had in mind, and how did you kind of go about the whole journey?
Great question. So I think the short answer is yes, and I'll explain why. In the life cycle of a consumer business, right, you are essentially innovating and entering a very unorganized sector where there's very little brand love or brand penetration, or even new age brand penetration. And what that means is you have, example, the Daburs and the Himalayas of the world in the wellness, Ayurvedic nutraceutical space, but you don't have something that caters to millennials and Gen Z. And what is very important is that when you're looking at such spaces, right, there is an opportunity for disruption. That's why investors like it, because there's a changing consumer trend. And fortunately, unfortunately, the way markets work is that when somebody has something innovative in a very fragmented category, it tends to attract a lot of money. A lot of people want to deploy a lot of money to such spaces. So my experience is that if you're identifying a space which is high growth, easily disruptible, lack of relevant brands in the space, you are going to have 100,000 brands that want to come in and try to do something to cater to the new audience. That requires money because you're creating discovery, you're creating a new category, you're creating products that are, you're operating at a very small scale, and what that means is in order to build a muscle across the different verticals and in order to penetrate your brand across the market, you need money for various different things. My experience is we've raised around 80 crores of capital through both VCs, through strategics. More than just the money, I think strategic advice, understanding the industry landscape, all of these things come with it. You may hear, and the great thing is that access to capital is a lot more easier today because investors are just a lot more attracted to private markets and how deals have happened. Hope that answers it. If there's anything.
I think that was fantastic, and it's always good to see success stories in the industry. We get to hear a lot about, oh, this company shut down, that company ran out of money. So I think when we see good exits, when we see good rounds of funding, I think that also boosts the industry morale quite a bit. So a fantastic job at Plix. So that kind of brings me to the end of our questions. I'm going to open it up to the floor. If there are any questions for any specific panelists, you can just raise a hand and we can get a mic to you. Does anyone have any questions for any specific panelist? Yes. Can we get a mic to him, please? Yeah.
So I have a question that someone suppose has started from their own bootstrap money and they have a very good result. They approach VCs. VCs don't reply them or ask for a warm referral. And suppose they are not from the ecosystem, how they can get a warm referral?
Reach out to us.
Anyone can
Reach out to us.
reach out to us.
Sure.
Reach out to us. We will be the warm referral. We'll be happy to do so.
Okay, sure.
So I think
can we meet after the conference?
Please reach out to us. We'll be very happy to refer. मतलब हम भी उतने दरवाजे खटखटा चुके हैं ना, तो हम जानते हैं किसके यहाँ जा सकते हो. Reach out to us.
Cold mails लिखना एक art है, एक practice है. So start writing a lot of cold emails. मतलब just law of averages है. 100 cold email लिखोगे अच्छा से draft करके 2 लोग respond करेंगे. But keep writing. Like for 1 month, just do this. Just write cold mails and see what your pipeline looks like. That really works. Be active on LinkedIn. Reach out to people. एक अच्छा value proposition prepare करो. So many people kind of write to us with very vague this thing that I'd like to meet you or can we meet for 30 minutes. While just be very clear on what is the agenda. Like, are you raising funds? What stage is your business at? What is it that you make? What do you need the funds for? So, एक अच्छा cold mail, it comes with practice, but like that's the single best advice I can give you.
I have a follow-up question. Like there's too much vague advice as well. Like some say don't directly ask for the funds. Some say try building a relationship. Try to first gel with them, then raise for the funds. Like there's so much of vague advice.
Nobody invests for relationships.
हाँ, relationships is like a long term.
So India में एक challenge है. You realize your friends and family don't buy from you. Most friends and family rounds are father, mother, brother, बीवी. ये इंडिया की प्रॉब्लम है, right? Your friends and families don't buy from you. They believe entitled to get your products for free. Right? तो मैं आप दोस्तों के जाता हूँ, मुझे शर्ट फ्री दे दे. क्यों? मैं कहा तूने मेरी चटनी खाई है. Right? So relationship के लिए wait मत करो. You don't have time. They don't have time. They are getting 200 emails a day. Make it crisp, like Jyoti said. Make it logical. If you have a good product, you already know you are progressing well. They will recognize you. अगर
Samples
traction
भेजो
है,
ढेर सारे.
they will talk. Please sample. I sample आज भी. This is our 5th year in existence, and I've learned it from my Red Bull experience. If you do not sample your product, people will never know what you do, because it's food, especially in my category. People will give you an instant reaction. अच्छा है, बुरा है. please sample as much as you can, and do not be, sorry for my language, do not be a chindi chor in sampling. What you want to sell, please sample that product, because people should see that product, they should touch the packaging, they should feel, okay, ye aisa dikhta hai, ye aisa hota hai. Give the entire product, don't worry. That is an investment. We are not on television, right? Yahi hamara television ka ad hai. This is how you grow.
Also, if you have a physical product, if you really need VC funding, make sure your product is available at all stores around where VCs hang out.
So I think there's one little piece of advice I want to give you, right? You said there are two pieces. You know, people say that you don't ask directly. You actually need to do both, right? If you're looking to raise funding, start networking from now. Ask, by the way, I don't know if how many food founders do you know? 5, 10, yeah. How many food founders do you know? Achha. But if you're looking to raise money, understand one thing, you're not alone. You're a part of a bigger ecosystem. Connect with that bigger ecosystem. Now, for example, let's say I'm a new food founder. I know she has raised money. I will go ask her about it. Like, hey, what did you do? Can you share your deck? And one interesting thing about our ecosystem is that people are happy to help. The competing nature nahi hai, right? So I'm very, very happy to say, I'm not a food founder, but today I work with hundreds and thousands of food founders. Every single person is willing to help the other one. The only thing you need to do is ask. Right? Okay, I think we may have time for one more question. I think there's a hand up right behind you, yeah. A lady there as well. Okay.
Hello, yeah. So my question was, when I was a kid, so we used to have Cheetos as you could say food brand from, I don't know the name, it's Lay's Cheetos or it was only Cheetos. But then they used to have this thing called Tazos, which, you know, people used to love collecting it, and that is how they made a loyalty out of it, or people tried different flavors. So since you all are in a industry of food where, you know, the shelf life also varies, because today what I like in 2 months, I might not then again want to go back. So how do you all maintain that stickiness that makes the customer wants to come again and again and again? Like, how do you collect the data if you all are doing that? Or how do you rely on that instinct that, you know what, within next 3 months also my brand will work out and it will not immediately vanish from the SKUs or wherever you all are present? Thank you.
So I think if we look talking about D2C, WhatsApp has played a very important role to gather that particular data about what kind of SKU is this customer buying. So I can push that kind of communication exactly to him. So that has helped out. Apart from that, on retail shelves as well, category or geography wise, we've seen different SKUs performing differently. So for seeking this historical data, we understand and try to push out that communication specifically to them on WhatsApp and also on Instagram in general. We understand that suppose say Diwali is coming up, so, you know, gifting will be huge. So, you know, we try to get that sort of whole SKU list wise production value out there.
Fantastic. I think we had one last question from the lady there. Yes. Your mic is not on.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. My question is for Jyoti. So, Jyoti, you mentioned that you have now expanded the SKUs from 3 to 7, and I noticed that you have launched, initially you had the iced tea and now you have launched it into powders. So, wanted to understand the thought process behind that. Like, is there any issue that you were facing with the liquid iced tea, or is there any other reasoning behind launching it in the powder form?
So 2 reasons. One is extreme amount of guilt for the carbon footprints shipping liquids generates. It doesn't make for great online business if you have a conscience. You always feel guilty. यहाँ से कन्याकुमारी, east में Sikkim, north में Kashmir. So one was that. Second, for purely business reason, it's extremely expensive to do that. So for like both of these reasons, in short, is why we decided to do some SKUs in sachets. Also, we have discovered, like there was lots of questions on channel, but sometimes the channel also discovers your product. Like you probably don't mean the product for that particular channel, but you find out that the channel discovered your product. In our case, we discovered exports purely by accident for sachets, and now we are shipping to 6 countries, and that was not by design, that was purely by accident. So what started as a conscious decision had like a lot of butterfly effects that were good for the business.
Just a small follow-up question. So from a end user perspective, have you seen any change in your users, like how they are perceiving the liquid iced tea versus the sachet?
So they're not the same product in sachet. So the sachets are hot beverages like milk tea without sugar, and the iced teas are iced tea, so no. And we tried to also push the bottle beverages more now through quick commerce for the reasons that I kind of gave earlier. So yeah, thank you.
I think we're out of time.
Oh, okay, you want to take one quick question?
Can we get one mic here, please?
Hello. Actually, I want to know now. I have recently launched my brand, the Mom's Umbrella, and I don't know how to market my product. I came up with very good product. I know I have sampled it and gave to my family, friends, and unknown persons also, to know influencers and everyone without paying anything. I just wanted to know what's the response about the product, and I got a very good response from them. Now I want to know how should I start marketing my product and how much I should spend in marketing. That is also one thing that I want to know. Like,
So my first question is, did you जो ट्रायल किया वो फ्री ट्रायल था या पेड ट्रायल था?
नहीं, फ्री ट्रायल था.
तो उसमें मत जाइए आप. India loves free products.
Okay.
So
No.
everybody loves free products.
हाँ.
So please बेचिए smaller things. For me, when I started, I was selling at condominiums. I used to go for the Ganesh Utsav ka stall, Diwali ka stall, and I would sell there, and I would sell, right? But once people pay, they'll give you real feedback. Number one.
Okay.
Number two, it's very easy now. अब तो ecosystem इतना अच्छा हो गया है that आप अगर किसी के पास ना भी जाएं, आप खुद भी करें, तो Instagram is a great way of reaching out to people. Challenging है because लोगों के पास टाइम कम है, तो इतने ब्रांड्स देखते हैं वो हर सेकंड में कि to stick to your brand is difficult, but it is one way of reaching out to consumers because आप TG choose कर सकते हैं, you can find the audience right, you can choose a sector, you can choose pin codes, right? वो benefit है, तो that obviously helps. कितना पैसा खर्चा करना चाहिए मैम, उसका कोई लॉजिक नहीं है because it depends.
No, but initially, like every time I go to some agency, I put some money. After that, again I come back. I like decision making is one problem. I think कि ज़्यादा पैसा लगाना चाहिए या नहीं. That is one barrier which is coming, and I don't understand whether I should spend. I have money, but still I'm like
No. It's absolutely okay. But one, when you go to an agency, I strongly believe you have to trust them a little and give them some time because कई बार हम बहुत जल्दी रिजल्ट एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं, राइट? इट डजंट हैपन लाइक दैट. पूरा साल पढ़ते हैं तो ही एग्जाम देके बच्चा पास कर सकता है, राइट? वो आपको पता है जो 3 दिन पढ़ता है उसका नंबर कैसे आते हैं, राइट? देयर इज अ रीजन व्हाई द गाय हैज गॉट 98 परसेंटाइल बिकॉज वो साल भर पढ़ता है, राइट? खेलता भी होगा लेकिन साल भर पढ़ता है. टू गिव दैट टाइम. अगर नहीं उतना ट्रस्ट है तो आप खुद करिए पहले, आपको समझ में आएगा क्या पिटफॉल्स है, क्या चैलेंजेस हैं. Start with a small budget of spending 500 a day, 600 a day, 1000 rupees a day. Then you will come to understand कि हाँ क्या traction है क्या नहीं है. अपनी गलतियाँ करेंगे, खुद सीख जाएंगे और समझ जाएंगे. 90 days, 100 days is a good time to understand कि आपका direction क्या है, right? And please do not go by feedback of products which are given free. Everybody loves free products.
Okay.
विटामिन सी का टैबलेट देंगे, करेला का जूस दीजिए, बोला क्या जूस बनाया यार, कितना मीठा करेला है आपका.
No, but
सबको फ्री में अच्छा लगता है.
when it comes to personal care product, it is not like that, no?
मैम प्लीज, आपको फिर आप इंडिया जानती ही नहीं है. आदमी चटनी समझ के वीको खा जाएगा फ्री में देगा तो.
अपना माल सस्ते में बेचना या फ्री देना और दूसरे का सामान एक्सपेंसिव खरीदना, दैट्स द इजीएस्ट थिंग टू डू इन बिजनेस. एंड सेकेंडली, you should do the marketing yourself. पहले 2-3 महीना अगर आप खुद नहीं करेंगी, if you don't understand the levers of your own business, तो एजेंसी वाले आपको हमेशा मतलब चूना लगाते रहेंगे.
मेरी एक और लर्निंग है मैम, जब हम खुद कुछ करते हैं ना, हमें ना कई बार पता नहीं होता what question to ask. Because अगर मैंने खुद नहीं किया है तो मुझे पता ही नहीं मैं सवाल क्या पूछूं, और अगर मैंने सवाल सही नहीं पूछा तो मुझे कभी उसका जवाब मिलेगा भी नहीं ठीक से. तो I would strongly suggest, because you're starting off, please do it yourself. You will have a challenge for, but आप खुद के लिए कर रही है ना, आपको दर्द कम होगा. कोई और मेरा पैसा कमाता है, दर्द होता है ना, अरे यार मेरा पैसा डुबा दिया, खुद को तो कुछ बोल नहीं सकते, राइट? तो आप खुद करिए.
So madam, personal care के लिए I have couple of advice for you. One is because I am into personal care space, right? So social media was designed to engage and share. अभी परफॉर्मेंस मार्केटिंग, पेड मार्केटिंग, राइट, व्यूज बाइंग, ऑल दोज थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग, एंड वेन एवर पीपल आर फंडेड और वेन एवर you start with huge partners at your end, then it's easy to experiment at scale. बट जो ज्योति ने बताया कि आपको खुद करना चाहिए, पहली चीज़ कि अगर मैं कोई भी कंटेंट बनाती हूँ अपने प्रोडक्ट का, तो सबसे पहले दुनिया में कोई भी आपके प्रोडक्ट को आपसे ज़्यादा अच्छा जान नहीं सकता. आप कितना भी ट्रेनिंग दे दो, कितना भी समझा दो, क्योंकि एजेंसी को आपके प्रोडक्ट को समझने में साल लग जाएगा. ठीक है, तो एक आपको पता है आपका प्रोडक्ट क्या है. दूसरा, उस प्रोडक्ट के लिए आपने जो कंटेंट बनाया, उसको जब सामने वाले ने रिएक्ट किया, पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव वॉट एवर, इट मीन्स यू हैव अ कंटेंट विच इज़ एंगेजेबल. आपको एक डायरेक्शन मिल गया कि अच्छा एक प्रोडक्ट का एक फ़ोटो खींच के भेज दिया, नहीं चला, दूसरे दिन दूसरा कर सकते हैं ना. एक इंस्टाग्राम में ऑर्गेनिक मार्केटिंग का तो कोई पैसा लगता नहीं है. वंस यू रियलाइज दैट अच्छा उस तरीके का पिक्चर, इस तरीके का कम्युनिकेशन, इस तरीके का मैसेज या टेक्स्ट मेरी प्रोडक्ट में एंगेजमेंट ला रहा है, और फिर आपको जब डायरेक्शन पता लग जाए तब उसको एम्पलीफाई करने के लिए आपको एजेंसी चाहिए कि ये मेरा डायरेक्शन है. अब ये दिन में मैं महीने में अगर मैं एंटरप्रेन्योर हूँ तो बहुत सारे पोस्ट खुद नहीं बना सकती हूँ, क्योंकि मैं बाद में क्या करूँगी. बट मैं अगर दिन में 3 दिन में एक पोस्ट तो बना ही सकती हूँ अभी, और डायरेक्शन मिल गया ना, देन ओनली स्पेंड मनी ऑन एजेंसी, राइट. तो बट फाइंडिंग डायरेक्शन इज योर जॉब, अदरवाइज डोंट वेस्ट मनी.
थैंक यू.
ऑल्सो द लास्ट एडवाइस, डोंट स्टॉप एक्सपेरिमेंटिंग. जो सबने डायरेक्शन की बात की, डायरेक्शन तभी मिलेगा जब आप 10 जगह हाथ पाँव मारोगे और एक जगह सक्सेसफुल होगा या 2 जगह सक्सेसफुल होगा. उसके बिना आपको डायरेक्शन भी नहीं मिलेगा. मैं बता सकता हूँ बहुत कुछ, बट एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन के बाद ही आपको समझ आएगा कि आपका प्रोडक्ट कहाँ चल सकता है, कहाँ नहीं. तो एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन कभी मत रोके. जो आपका पहला क्वेश्चन था, whether I should go with this or that, you will have to figure out. You can obviously take advice from people who have done it previously, but the ultimate goal is कि आपको figure out करना ही पड़ेगा.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that has been quite an enriching session. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause to our esteemed panelists on stage. Thank you so much for sharing in your expertise with us. We have a small token of appreciation, requesting Vicky Menezes, founder of CMPL, to please join us on stage to present the same, along with our moderator, Ashwin. If you all can both present the mementos to our panelists. And ladies and gentlemen, you gotta keep clapping, come on. Firstly, we're gonna present the memento to Dipankar Agarwal. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Next we have Jigar Patel. Gaurav Palrecha. I can't hear the claps. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. You deserve all the applause. Come on. Ripujay Chachan. Jyoti Bharadwaj. Soumyadeep Mukherjee. Karan Korke. And Akash Zaveri. Come on. We need to have a group photograph because we need to mark this momentous moment. So can I have all of you please come ahead?